And welcome back to the MMA Plug, presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. We have a special guest joining us via the MyFitFoods hotline. That is MyFitFoods of Denver. Go to www.myfitfoods.com. Use the promo code Peanut Gallery. You'll have some savings there in the background. Our special guest of the week, we have the one, the only, the great and powerful Dalton Rosta. How you doing, my man?
How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, when Josh said that you wanted to come and hop on the show, I was definitely excited to have you on here. You're an exciting young prospect in the Bellator ranks. You have a big fight coming up in a couple of weeks. So, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown on what you have going on and where can people follow you right away?
To follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at Dalton Rosta. That's the best way to get updates on upcoming fights and what's going on in my life and everything. As for my fight coming up, I have a fight with Dwayne Johnson. It was originally supposed to be Romero Cotton, who was an orthodox wrestler. And Dwayne Johnson came in on about 2 to 3 weeks notice. And he's a southpaw striker. So complete opposite preparation.
And no, folks, it is not that Dwayne Johnson that you're thinking of. It is not The Rock. But it is another guy who has some familiar travels, if you will, to some of our Colorado fighters and our friend of the show in Austin Jones. You know, that's a guy who we've had some familiarity with because we had a teammate fight him a couple of years ago. But, you know, what are your thoughts coming into this matchup?
So initially I've never heard of him before this. I remember the name sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't put a face to it. And then whenever I looked him up, I realized he fought on Bellator's 265 card that was headlined by Karatanov and Czech Congo, I believe. So he fought on the prelims of that card. His opponent wasn't very good. It was a feeder fight. You know, I think the guy had a losing record, and he finished the guy in 64 seconds with a Darce choke. I looked at the rest of his record, and he's only fought like 2 guys with winning records. Maybe 3, but he lost to 2 of them, and the other guy was just barely above 500, 5-4, and he lost that one as well. So he's 6-2. You know, his record looks good, but I don't think his level of competition's that high. His striking, like he looks athletic. He tries to throw with some heat behind a lot of the stuff that he does, and he throws a lot of teep kicks and a lot of rear head kicks. Nothing I haven't seen before. I fought plenty of southpaws, and my camp has me prepared well for it. So nothing, like I said, nothing I haven't seen before, and he's not too versatile of a striker where I don't think he's going to give me any problems anywhere. So I see this being a quick night.
Awesome.
Dalton, do you plan on implementing more of wrestling strategy since this is a striker now versus?
I'm sorry, did you catch that, Jordan? I heard.
I think he said, are you planning to implement a wrestling heavy strategy going up against a striker?
No, not so much really. This is MMA, you know, it's mixed martial arts, so I plan on mixing it up. I plan on striking, maybe a little bit of wrestling, maybe some more striking, some jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm well-rounded, so I can do it all. I plan on doing all 3. You know, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So we'll see how the fight plays out, but every fight starts on our feet. So we'll see how it goes there. And then as the fight goes along, we'll see if I start implementing some wrestling.
You mentioned that your camp has you very well prepared for this matchup. Who are some of the people that have helped you throughout these last few weeks getting ready for fight week?
So originally, like I said, I was fighting an orthodox wrestler. So I had Austin Vanderford getting me ready, Johnny Eblin, Josh Silvera, who fought in LFA. Josh is probably familiar with him. Gleason Tebow, who was the second most all time for takedowns in the UFC. And those were my main training partners getting ready for Cotton. And then the switch up, like last minute, I had to find some southpaws. So Josh Silvera is a southpaw, more of a wrestler, but has some good striking too. So I've been sparring with him recently since we switched. And I was trying to get some work in with Christoph Jotko, but he's had some shoulder injuries recently. So he hasn't been able to help me much. But mostly for this guy, Josh Silvera.
I mean, it's a pretty high level of list of guys that you went down from each side. How pivotal or how important has it been for you to be within within an environment that you can switch things up that quickly, to have an entire new look and have bodies at your disposal to help you prepare?
I mean, it's big difference from, what I'm used to. Don't get me wrong. Like, me and Josh are both from Pittsburgh, and there's good fighters in Pittsburgh. There's top level guys that can fight in the UFC, in the Bellator, can compete at that high level and even compete for titles. Me and Josh are proof of that. You got guys like Nick Brown and Kama Worthy, and a lot of other guys, Steve Mowry, who's in Bellator as well. So the proof's there, but the depth isn't as high as whenever you go to a bigger camp, such as American Top Team or Factory X out in Colorado. You know what I mean? So I'm sure Josh feels the same way. He has more bodies. He has more depth of that talent, not just one or two guys that he could work with on a consistent basis. He has a handful or more. So no matter who they give me, I have somebody, to spar with, somebody to wrestle with, somebody to train with, period. And I got my coach, the best coaches in the world, you know what I mean, to help me get prepared. So
Certainly.
And to follow up with that, that's something that I've noticed from all of you Pittsburgh guys. All of you guys can grapple. Every single one of you guys is tough when it comes to the mats, and you're just dogs when it comes to the feet. What is it about you Pittsburgh guys that you're all just dog tough? You're all just basically, you're like the embodiment of that Pittsburgh. Like, when you think Pittsburgh, especially, with the football fans and the way that Josh describes it, it's a very blue collar mentality and mindset from the large majority of the folks from that area. Just what goes into that? What makes all of you guys who come from those neck of the woods so tough?
Well, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of people like to say it's something in the water, but, just the tough weather conditions growing up, the wrestling culture there, it builds a strong mindset and a lot of hard workers, good work ethic and everything. And you got a plethora of good wrestlers, in the area. So the grappling is going to come easy, and you have a lot of ex-wrestlers getting into the jiu-jitsu world. So, that's easy to come by, you know what I mean? And then Pittsburgh, even though recently, they haven't had world champions or anything in boxing, it's Western PA is pretty boxing heavy. So you have the boxing sparring partners, you have the boxing trainers, the coaches, everybody there as well to develop that. And, you got guys like, not that I ever worked with him, but you had Paul Spadafora come out of there. You got Steve Cunningham right over the line, which I'm 30. I lived in Newcastle. I was 30 minutes from Youngstown. You had Kelly Pavlik, you had Ray Boom Boom Mancini, Harry Arroyo, you had the guys. So when I was home, I was just developing mostly my boxing skill set. And it took a while. I was sparring with guys like Josh. I was sparring with Lubomir Pinchuk, who's a professional boxer. I think he's like 15-2 or something now as a pro. He's from the Ukraine, a couple-time national champ, 300 something amateur fights. Very good. I've got to spar and work with Steve Cunningham. I was coached by Kelly Pavlik, traveling up to Cleveland even sometimes to spar with the guys at Strong Style. And it's just like the work's there, but you have to travel a lot. You have to seek it out. You have to find it. Like I said, the depth's not as much as it is in other places, but the grit, the grind, and the toughness is definitely there. And like I said, whether it be the wrestling culture or just the weather conditions, how people grow up, how you have to persevere to get out of tough upbringings. You know what I mean? That's where a lot of people in the area have to. It makes for very tough and gritty fighters.
Certainly. Josh, do you want to add on to that at all? We're talking about being from Pennsylvania and being tough. That's a new saying that we have around here, Dalton, of he's from Pennsylvania.
Oh man, I don't want to bring that up. I'm telling my phone's deciding to work with me here. So Jordan touched on that. I think that was a great thing, having Dalton explain, just what it's like coming, that the weather environment, the constant gray sky builds character. A question I did want to ask Dalton before my phone decided to go all haywire is leading up to this fight, initially against Romero Cotton, and you both have similar records, and he's technically put in top 10. And you kept calling for this fight. You kept saying, I wanted this fight because you wanted to cement your spot in top 10 of Bellator. Is it a little frustrating? Do you think they kind of avoided this fight so he did not lose his fight, kind of solidify you deserve that spot?
Yeah, I mean, regardless, man, it's gonna happen eventually. Whether it's this fight after, I'm gonna pass him up in the rankings. The whole thing is we're supposed to fight twice in 2020. So I was supposed to fight him in September of 2020, and about like 2 weeks before we were supposed to fight, he asked for the fight to be pushed back to October 29th. So we agreed to it, So that was the first one right there, first strike. October 29th starts nearing, about 2-3 weeks out. I want to say 3 weeks out. He pulls out. So then Ty Gorder steps in on 3-4 weeks notice, and I end up fighting Ty Gorder. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm done with this dude. He's a pullout king already 2 times in 2 months. And then they came out with the rankings, and he was ranked above me. At first, I wasn't even in the rankings. He was ranked 9th, and then I wasn't in them. And then I got bumped into him, and I was ranked behind him. And then I got bumped out and then bumped back in. It's been like, it's been haywire with the rankings a little bit, but still he was always ranked above me, even when I was in the top 10. So that's why I was calling out for the fight even after that. You know what I mean? When I was like, I was through with it, but then I seen they ranked him above me. So I was like, all right, I guess I got to earn my stripes. And it was frustrating that he was ranked above me when this dude's pulled out multiple times. I know I'm the better fighter than him. I have the better resume, the better opponents, everything. So I wanted to fight again. And eventually he turned it down 2 times in the past year as well. And then finally he accepted it. And then I had a feeling he was going to pull out. I told my manager, I told my training partners, like, he's going to pull out. I know it. And then just a week ago, we got news. My manager texted me. He was like, hey, Romero pulled out. And I thought he was fucking around with me. So I called him up right away. I'm like, you're fucking with me. I'm laughing. He's like, no, I'm not, bro. I'm like, you're fucking with me. I told you how he was going to pull out. So you're fucking with me. And he was like, damn, I'm sorry. And long story short, he wasn't messing around. So they got me this new opponent, and I mean, that's that. But as for like the frustration of him pulling out, yeah, I was kind of hopeful this time, but I had a feeling it was going to happen. And his excuse was that he was sick. He had COVID. But I seen the next day on his Instagram story, he was live on somebody's podcast, and it's not a podcast like this where we're on a Zoom call and we're all talking. This dude's right next to the dude in a live podcast with his mask on. Like, do you have COVID and you tested positive for it? Or are you just saying you're sick and just so you could pull out of the fight? So I don't know. The dude's scared. He doesn't want to fight me. So at this point, I don't even care if he's ranked above me. If the media, because they're the ones that are control the rankings, they do the votes on it. If they want to keep voting him above me, that's on them. They could be blind and deaf if they want to. Eventually, I'm going to be ranked above him. I'm going to pass him up. It's not in my control anymore. So I'm through with that. I'm looking forward to this new opponent, and looking forward to getting the finish on January 29th, regardless of who's in front of me.
Very well said. Folks, we are talking to the undefeated Bellator prospect in Dalton Rosta. Now, just to tie things up, to give you maybe a little bit of extra something to go into fight week, I've got a nice little story about your opponent, about Dwayne Johnson. So, flashback to fall of, I believe it was 2018, fall 2018. He fights one of our good friends and teammates in Austin Jones out on an LFA card. He proceeds to, after Austin beat him that night, he was undefeated going into that fight, and then Austin gave him his first loss. The guy just goes absolutely like Jesse Taylor, ballistic, like just hammered. Just gets completely tanked at the hotel after. His girl leaves him. He ends up being found face down, butt naked in the hotel in the ice room, laying down there in the hotel in front of the ice. So, that guy had one of the absolute worst nights of his entire life, thanks to one of our teammates. So hopefully he has it's a repeat situation, and you're able to deliver a similar experience for him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I watched that fight. Austin was like 5-4 at the time. He's like 11-7. I was looking all into it. I research my opponents pretty hard. I try to give her every little advantage I can. So I remember watching the fight too. And man, to think that happened after, man, oh my gosh. I can't imagine what's gonna happen January 29th whenever I knock him out.
Oh yeah. I can only imagine how the tide's gonna turn.
Gonna end up facing cold again, just this time in front of some
In the cage. This time on the canvas, but after he's gonna end up in the ice room again.
That's awesome. And just one more time on the way out, Dalton, where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Dalton Rosta. Also, Twitter handles the same exact thing. But like I said before, I'm most active on Instagram. That's where you'll catch the most updates for my fights, what's going on in my life, and everything else.
Awesome. Is there anybody that you want to shout out on the way out?
Sure. My top sponsors, Arius Agencies and Scooter King. I have plenty of other sponsors, but those are my top two. So they've been with me from the very beginning. Wouldn't be where I am without them.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us. And folks, make sure that you tune into that Bellator card there up here at the end of the month. It's going to be a great lineup all the way from the top to the bottom. You have some heavyweights in the main event that are going to be getting down. It is guaranteed to deliver on the entertainment value. You are listening to the MMA Plug, presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM Mile High Sports Radio. We had Dalton Rosta joining us via the MyFitFoods hotline. Go to www.myfitfoods.com. Eat fit, live fit, give a fit. Use the promo code Peanut Gallery in the checkout. Get yourself some savings. Stick around after the break, folks. We're going to be talking some current events in the combat sports world and cap off the hour by going 3 rounds. This is the MMA Plug, presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM Mile High Sports Radio.